And welcome back to the Seth Justice Show. This is the first podcast in a while. Uh, and I want to say it's because I've been working too hard, or you know, I've been doing X, Y, and Z thing, focusing on myself and focusing on different odds and ends. But that's not necessarily true. Uh, we'll get to more of that, and then also I want to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about the Epstein files. We're also going to talk about some dating stuff and probably some other things too. Um, but I wanted to start with this, and man, I don't know. I don't know where my mind's gone. And, it's 10 o'clock right now on a Wednesday night. I can't sleep very well right now. Uh, my brain is going a million different directions. And I don't know if this is necessarily for anybody else other than myself, but I don't know, man. There's moments in life where you just feel so empty, alone. You feel off. You feel not great. You feel, whatever which way you want to go, you know? There's moments in your life where you're just like, golly, this is happening again, or you feel like something should be happening and it's not. Being alone and not like being alone and realizing how alone you are sometimes, absolutely daunting thing. It's one of those moments that is just, you understand a lot in that moment. You understand, it's a, maybe not understand is the right word, because you don't understand sometimes. You feel so, your brain feels like it's attacking you sometimes. And in moments like this, I often have to remind myself to be positive. That's been an absolute struggle so far in the, latter half of January and um, February so far, which we're in a new year and trying to get that. And there's so much excitement about the new year in 2026 and, doing things different and being more. But golly, trying to mend the things in the past, man, it's just a daunting task. And I'll be I'll be transparent. I am doing the thing I wanted to do in my career. I am having the moment. I am having, the realization that yes, this what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing, and that's great. But then there's this other part of life. And I'm just like, man, I really I really want that other part. I want the thing. I want the entire cake. And that other part of my life is a relationship. Somebody who, when you're going through this, tumultuous time in your head because we all go through these moments of just utter low self-esteem, hatred, depression, sadness, just not knowing what the world is going to do, and you need somebody there. I saw this like old clip from a Batman cartoon where it's Batman and I believe Catwoman, um, and Batman is just punching a piece of wood and punching it so hard and so often that his hands bleed, and he's crying because something bad happened. Now, I didn't watch the entire show of that, so I don't really know what's going on. But Catwoman in this situation is just like, Bruce, it's okay. You can stop. You can fall apart. Having that person you can fall apart to, that's something I've never found. 'Cause see, with me, like my vulnerability is such that it's just like I don't I don't trust people enough to fall apart. And maybe this is why I'm doing this on a podcast and not talking about it to people and whatever clout chasing BS you can say. But to have that person to fall apart with, mm, yeah, that's the goal. And my brain has been in a million different directions. Just this night alone, let alone the past month. So I feel like it's been a month since my last podcast. And there's been some highs, there's been some massive ego spikes and just wanting to be more and everything like that. And then there's also the moments where I feel so low and dejected. And man, I'm tired. I'm so tired. And maybe this is because I haven't been sleeping well. Maybe it's because X, Y, and Z thing. Maybe I'm just thinking too much. And I'm just like, I am just tired. Not the tired that you get from the gym, not the tired that you get from just, doing things and just being rambunctious and just going around and being, the silly version of yourself. This is just the physical manifestation of the mental tiredness. And, sometimes that is so much worse than being overly tired physically. And there's moments, especially like tonight, I just feel alone. And I wish I could have that person next to me and, we could talk about things, fall apart, even if it's something so damn stupid, you know? And, of course, you have your parents. At least in my case, I have my parents. Some people may have their friends. Some people may have, X, Y, and Z thing. But for me, sometimes I just feel like I have myself. And I can talk to my mom and my dad. I can talk to my brother. I can talk to my friends. There's a feeling of, I don't want to, it's not bother. It's just like, just a feeling of not being enough, but also internalizing that, never wanting that to see the light of day. There's an embarrassment about that. And maybe it's a good thing now that I'm doing the podcast instead whenever I have these feelings and just being like, you know what? I need to verbalize this and get it out of my body because it's toxic. It's hurting me to have this inside, so I need to get it out. But there is an absolute loneliness that fills my heart. And, I could say, like, this person back in the day was the person I was meant to be forever with. This person, I dated back in high school. We should have been high school sweethearts. Da, 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 da. All that's crap. You know, all of it's an excuse. And I don't know, there's a feeling of when you know you find your person, when you know that you feel complete. And some people maybe have the great honor. And I say this as an honorific thing of being able to be okay just by themselves. I am not one of those people, you know. Being by myself is not always the best idea for me. And I've been alone for a long while, you know. And oh, it's not fun. It's not for the weak either. But I know for me, and I and see this is the point where I go back and I say, but I'm trying to accomplish something. Trying to get to the point in my career where I'm happy and I can move on and do the things that I want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then there's also that you need to complete the rest of it. Like I'm going to be 32 years old. I'm trying to continue my career and move it into a direction that is in a whole nother stratosphere. And for me, I want to bring everyone that I've ever known along with me who rides for me, who has been my greatest supporters, my greatest friends, my greatest family, and I want to bring that to them. I also want to do it for myself because I know I can do it. Unfortunately, though, when you choose a path like this, or choose a path of hurt, or choose a path that is lonely, because there's so many paths that are lonely paths. It's tough. It's tough on the brain. And this may be a moment for me, like it's a weakness moment, and that's absolutely true. But also, I need to understand that I need to be vulnerable and not keep, again, this toxic feeling inside. Because if I did, I don't know where I'd be. You know, wouldn't be good. Let me tell you that right now. Wouldn't be good. But I think a lot of people are feeling that way right now, especially in relationships. And this is where we're going to transition. Uh, um, Especially in relationships. Like relationships today have changed so drastically. And I give a lot of credit in this thought to Impulsive with Logan, Mike Malak, and Brianna Chicken Fry. They all did a podcast together recently, and they were talking about relationships and how they've changed. And one thing that really stuck with me is that how the stereotypical or the old definition of family and relationships have changed so drastically. Like it's night and day difference. And one thing that they said is everyone is so self-sufficient. Like everyone is doing for them. And I think that's a good thing. But I also think like there's a balance that we can achieve, right? There's a balance that we can achieve that not all of us are able to accomplish, but we should be able to. It's just tough. And dating today, like you have, like with news stories, there are so many options, so many different places to get news stories. You can go on Instagram right now, DM somebody, and maybe start talking. You can go on Tinder, you can go on Bumble, Hinge, or all the other billion other relationship places, and you can find somebody there. You could go out to a bar, but most times people get sketched out a little bit. Whether they're like, "Oh, I don't wanna, weird person, stranger danger, don't want you around me, bye." Or they get so nervous that they don't know what to say, and then they don't say anything, and then that person feels like they're a nobody. And that may not be the intent. That's how it goes sometimes. There's moments in our lives where we need to realize how powerful we are. And there's also those moments we need to realize how insignificant we are. We need the balance. We need the yin to the yang, the, I don't know, just the mustard and ketchup. We need those moments. We don't need to feel like we're on top of the world. We always don't need to feel like, we need to carry ourselves a certain way. It's all right to fall apart. It's all right to, not be at your best. But to feel alone, ostracized, lesser than, it's not a great feeling. Is it a feeling we need to get sometimes because we need to humble ourselves? Maybe. But when it comes to dating, trying to find somebody is just as difficult as what it used to be, if not tenfold more, because you see everything. And this isn't like a let's scream and yell at social media and be like, "Oh, social media is bad because it shows us too many happy things and not enough sad things or not the real thing." You're faking your relationship. You're faking your outrage. And uh, best believe that is part of social media. Not a fool. But I think we get so inundated with options, we forget sometimes how lucky we are to be living in such a time where we have opportunity. And it may not be a lot of our opportunity. It may not feel like, much of anything. Like I said earlier, I have felt so low at times and so lonely. And I didn't do a damn thing about it because of my past, because of things that happened. And that's another reason why people are single now and waiting until they're in their 40s. Yes, are things super expensive? Absolutely. Like to have a kid right now, whew, I'd have to work 2 or 3 jobs. And a lot of people are doing that just as a single person, not just as a parent. And it's tough. And that I get. There's also a mentality right now with, yes, there's a lot of options out there. There's also a lot of hurt because of those options. Because somebody sees, oh, I can just go on Bumble right now or Hinge and I could just talk to somebody new. I don't need this person. Like it's one argument and it could be over in an instant. And one thing I want in a relationship is even if it's a hard conversation, even if it's uncomfortable, The relationship I have is stronger from it and not weaker because of it. And I feel like anymore, one argument, one hard conversation, and it's over. That's what's happened a lot of times in the relationships that I've been in, or just you're just not feeling it. You're in two different headspaces. You're in two different places in your lives, and it just doesn't match up. And most times it's never going to match up because you have a pre cognitive thought about the person that you want to be with. And that may not be the person that you find on Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, wherever else you're looking online. Instagram, X, Facebook. And so the options right now, there's a lot and it's very overstimulating. People are hurt. People aren't making as much money as they used to. People are losing out on more and more of their checks. People just are self-sufficient. They find ways that work for them and they build off of that. And most times that means not having a significant other. And it can get dark and scary and lonely because then you'll see a friend get into a relationship and then they start dating that person. And then they fall in love, have kids, get married. You, well, get married, have kids, get married. Doesn't really matter the order there. But then you're just like, I kind of want, I kind of want that. And a lot of single people, I feel like, and this is me being very general, I feel like a lot of people really want that relationship, really want it. But because of X, Y, and Z reason, whether it's you're too caught up in work, whether you're too caught up being self-sufficient, whether you're too caught up, you know, I don't know, remembering things about your past, or, you're overstimulated. You don't want the drama or hassle, and just dating in general sounds like a fucking drag. I feel like we all want that relationship. Even with all that, it's just doing the job of trying to find that person. It's a daunting task. And it's an overstimulating task. And it's tough. And so I feel like since that impulsive episode, and it came out just very, very recently. Um, so since that point, I'm just like, uh, that makes sense. But also kind of makes me feel even more alone, you know? And it's just like, it's almost like a high school dance, right? And again, I feel like we never grow up from high school. Boys are on one side, girls are on the other side, just waiting for that one person to cross the line, start dancing with somebody. Scary. Scary to do that. And being that first person, there could be a lot of rejection there. There could be a lot of, oh my goodness, this is awful. Oh my goodness, what if this blows up in my face? What if it's awful? What if it's like nobody else does it? What if I'm the only one? And then you don't do it. Whether that's at a bar, whether that's trying to do some pickup line on a dating app, whether that's sending a DM to somebody you liked in high school and was just like, hey, what's up? Thought you were cute. Feel like what we need to do is cross that line and just wing it. And I need to do better at that myself. A lot of people think I'm this huge extrovert, and I absolutely am. But when it comes to romance, when it comes to, you know, dating, there's just something in my mind that always usually says I'm not enough. And that's the tough thing. But Need to cross that line to dance. Have that partner. So hopefully that we can find a time where things start melding and people don't feel so alone and so hurt and so just ostracized by life. And I mean, the hurt and pain of life can be absolutely just, ugh, awful. It really can. I mean, look at the Epstein stuff, right? Talk about hurt, pain, awfulness. Like, pretty sure we can all agree that even though this stuff happened decades ago, accountability needs to be held. We need to be held to a higher standard. Our politicians need to be held to a higher standard. And victims need to get the people who had done them wrong to be brought to justice. I think we can all agree that the sick, disgusting people who perpetrated this, yeah, they need to be brought to justice. Because the trafficking and selling, and in some cases, the deaths, actually, in a lot of cases, of deaths and hurt and just destruction that this behavior caused and has caused and will cause for, the eventual years that this continues to go on. I mean, you just think about it, right? If that was your sister who was trafficked, sold, like just a piece of frickin' meat, and just left a shell of who they were, you'd want justice. And in fact, you'd probably go and, at least a lot of us would say that we're going to go exact that justice. And I think in that situation, I don't advocate for violence. I'll just say this. You do something to mess with somebody I care about and adore and love, good things aren't going to happen to that person. They hurt. They do anything to make the smile go away on that person's face. Not going to be a good day for them. Not. And so then you make it into a global scale of different government officials, different people all around the world sticking their fingers into this just cookie jar of absolute disgusting, gross atrocities. And you're just like, what are we doing? What are we doing as a society that we allow this to happen just because we want to get ahead of this country or that country, or we need knowledge, or we need to sell these weapons to these people, or we need da 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 da? Have we lost our dang minds that we're so focused on the political gains, on the money gains, that we don't see people as people? I mean, it's almost like an anime, like a show called Maggie. It's a show about this, wizard-like person coming down and choosing a king, and there's usually only two or three, and they make that person into a king by going into a dungeon. Da 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 da. What this, what Aladdin, um, sees is a lot of racist bigotry, hatred, classism, and he has to go around and kind of clean up humanity's mess. One Piece is another great example. Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirates go around from island to island. Dressrosa, we'll use that as the uh, comparison, is run by an evil man who is selling drugs and is, trying to turn people into, slaves. And I feel like now, in this world that we have, we finally see that, damn it, we're no better than the over exaggeration or dramatization that television and shows show us and prove to us. And, they write scripts about, evil, terrible kings or evil, terrible political powers or the strong oppressing the weak. And here today, in what's supposed to be an evolved society, we're doing the same damn thing. And this world looks bleak because of it. And then we have people covering it up. We have people who are trying to make excuses. And it's just terrible, man. Now, I don't know the inner workings or details, and that's an excuse in and of itself. And I'm not a political person, and I'm not, a politician. But damn, there's got to be some other way. There's got to be some other way of doing things where we can find the balance in life. And over this podcast, what I've talked about is essentially the micro, myself, then dating, and now the world. And it's just, there's problems everywhere you go, everywhere you look, whether it's inner, outward. There's issues. We're not perfect, but we gotta try and find a balance between the depression, the evil of the world, and also the good and lovable moments. Like Kunal Nayar, Raj from The Big Bang Theory. Dude he has a net worth of $45 million. He has been paying people's medical bills, and not people he knows, random people. That is the goodness of people. There's examples of this where people are absolutely phenomenal humans and treat people the way that you want to be treated. And yet, we have these moments when it involves Epstein and the files and Ghislaine and Trump and Prince Andrew and all these different business tycoons and people we've never even heard of but are the richest people in the world taking advantage of young adolescent children. And more importantly, they take advantage by selling and using these people just as meat. And I say people, it's primarily women. Like in the Epstein files, there's no mention of men. So I don't know where we go from here. I don't know if it's just going to be better or an abridged version of what we've already seen, or if it's just going to be continuous gaslighting until, something else, the other shoe drops. And a lot of people are saying if in the Epstein files, it shows that all the world leaders all around the world are tainted, gross, disgusting human beings. That we should all just tear it down and start over. I was always in the camp of, "Mm, no, you can't do that." But then in my own life, I'm doing that every single day, trying to progress, move around. Like I've lived in 3 different states in 3.5, 4 years. And there's moments in my life where I'm just continually changing, adapting, and being new. But then when it comes to government and everything like that, I usually say I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know. I don't know. I think I do know actually. And it's that we need to love each other. We need to find a system that promotes that. Now, here's the thing. I want people to get as rich as they want. If you want to be a billionaire, be a damn billionaire. If you want to just do your thing, do your thing. You don't need to make $1 million, but you're living your best life. You have your family, you have your people around you. Great. Do that. Or if you're just a single dude like me and you're just like, I'm happy with just where I'm at. I do the things I love to do. That's awesome too. And you don't feel the loneliness. But damn, man, there's got to be another way that we can move about this world that doesn't have people used and sold as just pieces of meat. There's got to be moments where we realize that corporate greed and the greed of others needs to maybe not be so demonic. There's got to be moments in this world where we understand that, yeah, you want to make $1 and maybe you fib a little bit on some marketing, maybe try and cut corners, sure, but it's not a detriment to society. And I don't know if people do it on purpose. Human trafficking is a tough thing to say that you're not doing on purpose. Let me say that right now. Those people are absolutely gross. Mm. But when people tell half truths, when people cover up poor behavior as being nice, when people say their product does one thing and it doesn't, even though that's what you wanted it to do, or if you're trying to build a spaceship to Mars, it should be in the name of progress and being better and having community. You can be selfish. It's got to be a balance, though. And one thing, because this podcast has been an absolute downer, and my bad. One thing, though, I've been seeing more and more of is people are saying, and it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, or in the middle on this one, for the most part, I see a lot of people saying, what the hell are we doing? We just need to love each other. We just need to be the best that we can be for everybody else. And yes, we're going to be selfish sometimes because we're the only people that know what's going on in our heads. And that's absolutely true. And that's also why we need to have conversations because we need to talk about this and tell people what's going on inside as I'm being vulnerable on a podcast and not talking to somebody. Hypocrite. Either way, though, what I'm seeing is people saying, this is so dumb. What are we doing? How could we let this go? How could we do some of these things. How could we allow this to happen? And mainly, a lot of people are preaching that we need to love each other. And maybe we need to start over. Maybe we need to have a reset. I don't know. But I wouldn't be opposed. Like everybody needs a reset. Like everybody needs just to like get a refresh on life sometimes. Where they need to go and put their feet in the grass, breathe in deeply, or go on vacation, or go on a shopping spree, or, just doing something strange and weird. Maybe society's ready for that. Maybe we need to relook at some things. And I don't know what the solution is. All I want to see is that we love each other, we appreciate each other, and we do right by each other. That's the important thing. And honestly, I've seen a lot more people start saying that. And that's at least a positive. So we're going in the right direction. Just need to keep going. And that's the Seth Justice Show. Thank you so much for listening in. If you'd like to subscribe, like, follow, please do. Instagram at justice_radio, YouTube, the Seth Justice Show. Thank you so much for listening. And let's try not to make it a month till our next conversation. So let's work on that. Yeah, I need to work on that. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye.